Welcome to Andre's Insight, where clarity meets curiosity. Today we're taking a deep dive into mindfulness. You've probably heard the term buzzing around, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's everywhere.
Yeah, but what does it, really mean? And maybe more importantly, how could it actually fit into a busy life? Is it practical?
That's exactly what we're hoping to explore. We've gathered quite a bit of information looking at everything from the core definition
Right.
to some really practical exercises and even how it can impact your brain and body, which is pretty fascinating stuff.
Totally. So our mission today is really to unpack what mindfulness is all about. Explore some simple ways you can start practicing it, like right away.
Yeah, actionable things.
Exactly. And highlight some of those maybe surprising benefits it might bring to your day-to-day. We want to focus on useful insights, without getting bogged down in jargon.
Agreed. Keep it clear and helpful.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The basics.
Yeah.
What is mindfulness, fundamentally?
Well, at its heart, mindfulness is really about being fully present.
Okay, fully present.
Yeah, being aware of where you are, what you're actually doing, but crucially, without getting sort of swept up or overwhelmed by it.
So not reacting automatically.
Exactly. It's like paying attention to this moment right now, but in a specific way intentionally and without judgment, just noticing.
That sounds simple, yet maybe not easy. Is it something you have to, learn from scratch?
Not really. That's the interesting part. It's considered a basic human ability. We all have it, to some degree.
We do.
Yeah. The practice part is about cultivating it, strengthening that ability, like exercising a muscle.
Ah, okay. So that's where things like meditation come in. That's the workout for the mindfulness muscle.
Precisely. Formal practices, meditation being a big one, are like the training ground.
Right.
They help you develop that state of presence, that non-judgmental awareness, so you can then bring it more easily into your everyday life. The goal is to live each moment a bit more fully.
Okay, so that leads to a key point. People often use mindfulness and meditation almost as synonyms. Are they the same thing?
That's a really common confusion, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's understandable, but no, they're not quite the same.
How so?
Well, think of mindfulness as maybe the broader philosophy or the quality of awareness itself. It's a way of living, a way of relating to your experience.
Right.
Meditation, then, is one of the primary tools or techniques you use to cultivate that mindful quality. A very effective tool, but still a tool within the larger approach.
Got it. So you could be mindful without formally meditating, like when you're washing dishes or walking.
Absolutely. That's actually a key part of it, bringing that awareness into everyday activities. Meditation helps you build the skill, but the application is everywhere.
That makes sense. And where did this all come from? I know it has ancient roots.
It does. It stems from Buddhist traditions going back, well, over 2,500 years.
Wow.
But the way it's often presented and used today, especially in things like stress reduction programs or therapy, it's generally secular. It's not tied to any specific religion.
So the focus is more on practical benefits.
Exactly. The main goal in these contexts is usually about improving quality of life, enhancing well-being, managing stress, things like that.
Okay, so let's talk about those benefits. Why should you, listening right now, care about this? Why invest the time? What's the payoff?
Well, the evidence is actually pretty strong now, especially in certain areas. One of the biggest ones, and probably the most researched, is reducing stress and anxiety.
Okay, that's huge for a lot of people.
Definitely. Study after study shows that mindfulness practices can significantly lower stress symptoms. It seems to help people cope better, feel less overwhelmed. It's also shown benefits for managing anxiety disorders.
How does it do that, General?
It seems to help by changing our relationship to stressful thoughts and feelings, creating a bit of space so we're not immediately caught up in them. Plus, as we'll probably discuss later, it can actually calm the physiological stress response in the body.
Interesting. Okay, stress and anxiety. What else?
Improved focus and attention, that's another major one.
In our distracted world, that sounds essential.
It really is. We're constantly multitasking, context switching, and research suggests even short mindfulness practices can help counteract that erosion of concentration.
So it's like brain training for focus.
Kind of, yeah. It seems to strengthen the neural circuitry involved in attention, helping you notice when your mind has wandered off and gently bring it back. Less mind wandering, basically.
And you mentioned the brain. I read something about mindfulness actually changing the brain. Neuroplasticity.
Yes, absolutely. That's one of the most exciting areas of research. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself. to form new neural connections.
Right.
And studies using brain imaging have shown that regular mindfulness practice can lead to observable changes in brain structure.
Like what kind of changes?
Increases in gray matter density, that's the brain tissue, with lots of neurons in areas linked to learning and memory, like the hippocampus.
Wow.
Also in areas involved in self-awareness, perspective taking, and importantly, emotional regulation.
So it's not just a feeling, it's physically altering the brain for the better.
The evidence certainly points that way. It's not just subjective experience. There seem to be tangible changes happening.
That's incredible. Does it boost certain brain activity too?
It seems to. Research shows increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, which is heavily involved in higher-level functions like awareness, decision-making, and attention control.
The brain's CEO, sort of.
You could say that, yeah. And it also appears to strengthen the connections within brain networks that support attention and self-awareness. Some studies even suggest it might help protect certain brain regions against age-related decline or atrophy.
Protecting the brain as we age. That's a powerful potential benefit.
It is. And there's also evidence of decreased activity in some areas.
Oh, like where?
Notably in parts of the default mode network, like the posterior cingulate cortex. This network is active when our minds are wandering, ruminating, thinking about ourselves.
The monkey mind network.
Yeah, something like that. So decreased activity there might suggest less getting stuck in repetitive, self-focused thought loops and more being present.
And does it take years of practice to see these brain changes?
Encouragingly, no. Some studies have found observable brain changes even after relatively short-term mindfulness training, like an 8-week program.
Okay, that makes it feel more attainable.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond stress, focus, and brain changes, what other key benefits are there?
Well, tying into the brain changes, there's enhanced emotional regulation, that ability to pause between a stimulus and your reaction.
Creating that space you mentioned.
Exactly. It allows for more considered responses, less impulsivity, which naturally leads to increased self-awareness too. You start noticing your thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations more clearly, but again, without that immediate layer of judgment.
Just observing, oh, I'm feeling anxious right now.
Precisely. And that awareness, combined with the non-judgmental stance, contributes to overall well-being and resilience, being better able to navigate life's ups and downs.
I've also heard connections to better sleep.
Yes, there's some research suggesting mindfulness can improve sleep quality for some people, possibly by reducing that pre-sleep rumination or anxiety.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And you touched on the stress response calming the amygdala.
Right. The amygdala is like the brain's alarm system. Mindfulness practices seem to help dampen its reactivity, leading to a less intense stress reaction when things get tough.
What about difficult emotions like anger?
It can be really helpful there too. Again, by creating space. You learn to notice the physical sensations of anger rising in your body.
Like the heat, the tension.
Yeah. And you observe the angry thoughts without necessarily getting swept away by them or immediately lashing out. It allows for a more constructive response, maybe even fostering some compassion for why you're feeling that way.
It sounds like it makes you more attuned overall.
That's a great way to put it. More attuned to your internal world, thoughts, feelings, sensations, and also your external environment, moment by moment.
And maybe more attuned to yourself in a kinder way. Self-compassion.
Definitely. That non-judgmental observation naturally encourages a kinder, more accepting attitude towards yourself, flaws and all, which is hugely important for well-being.
And I recall seeing links to improvements in psychiatric symptoms, too.
Yes, mindfulness-based interventions are increasingly used in mental health settings. Studies suggest they can lead to improvements in symptoms across various conditions, and often greater benefits are seen with more consistent practice.
Okay, wow. The case for mindfulness seems really strong.
Yeah.
But how do you actually do it? Especially if you're busy, maybe skeptical, or just don't know where to begin.
That's the key question, isn't it? And the good news is it doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming. There are lots of simple ways to integrate it.
Like what? What's a good starting point?
Probably the most fundamental practice is mindful breathing. It's the core of many other techniques.
Just focusing on the breath.
Yeah, simply paying attention to the sensation of your breath flowing in and flowing out. You might notice the coolness of the air as it enters your nostrils, the warmth as it leaves, and the crucial part. When your mind wanders off, which it absolutely will, that's normal. You just gently notice that it's wandered and kindly guide your attention back to the breath. No need for frustration.
Just gently bring it back. How long do you need to do that for?
Even just a minute or two can make a difference. 5 minutes is great. You don't need hours.
Okay, that sounds doable. What else is simple?
A body scan. This is another really common one.
How does that work?
You systematically bring your awareness to different parts of your body one by one, maybe starting at your toes, then moving up through your feet, ankles, lower legs, and so on.
And what are you noticing?
Just any sensations that are present. Warmth, coolness, tingling, pressure, contact, maybe even numbness or discomfort. The key is just noticing without trying to change anything or judging the sensations.
Like a curious observer of your own body.
Exactly. Then there's mindful eating. This one can be quite revealing.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Instead of rushing through a meal or eating while distracted, you deliberately pay attention to the whole experience.
Like really tasting the food.
Yes. Noticing the look of the food, the smell, the textures in your mouth, the different flavors unfolding, eating more slowly, maybe putting your fork down between bites, really savoring it.
I bet most of us don't do that very often. I know I often eat lunch while scrolling on my phone.
It's very common. Another simple one is mindful walking.
Just paying attention while you walk.
Pretty much. Focusing on the physical sensations, your feet hitting the ground, the movement in your legs and arms, the feeling of the air on your skin. You can also mindfully observe your surroundings without getting lost in thought about them.
So turning everyday activities into practice opportunities.
That's the idea. You can practice mindful listening when someone's talking to you, really tuning in, focusing your full attention on what they're saying, instead of planning your response or letting your mind drift.
That could probably improve relationships.
It certainly could. There's also mindful seeing. Just taking a moment to look around you, maybe out a window, as if you're seeing it for the very first time. By dropping the labels for a moment and just noticing shapes, colors, light, shadow, movement, seeing the world with fresh eyes, even familiar surroundings.
Like that. Any other quick ones for a busy day?
Sure. Taking a short break for mindful stretching. Really feeling the sensations in your muscles as they lengthen and release.
Instead of just going through the motions.
Right. Or even mindful drawing or doodling, just focusing on the physical act of making marks on paper, the movement of your hand, the lines appearing, without any goal of creating a masterpiece.
Interesting, like process over product.
Exactly. There's also a structured mini practice called the 3-minute breathing space.
Okay, what's that?
It's got 3 steps, roughly a minute each. First, you acknowledge what's going on right now, your thoughts, feelings, body sensations, just check in.
Okay, step 1, check in.
Step 2. Narrow your focus gently onto the breath, following the sensations of breathing for about a minute.
Step 2, focus on breath.
And step 3, expand your awareness outwards again to include the whole body, your posture, facial expression, maybe the space around you. It's a quick way to reset and ground yourself.
3 minutes, that feels very achievable.
It is. A couple more quick ideas. Observer meditation involves intentionally stepping back from your thoughts and feelings, watching them come and go like clouds without getting caught up.
The detachment idea again.
And the mindfulness bell exercise, you can use an actual bell sound or any distinct sound. You just focus all your attention on the sound until it completely fades away. It's great for anchoring you in the present.
Sounds simple but powerful.
It can be. And finally, just building in auto check-ins or mini check-ins throughout your day.
Wait.
Just pausing briefly, maybe once an hour or during transitions. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? What sensations are in my body? Am I holding tension anywhere? What's my posture like? Just a quick scan.
A little moment of self-awareness.
Exactly. Or using your senses more mindfully in routine tasks, really feeling the warm water and soap when you wash your hands, really smelling your coffee before you drink it. These little moments add up.
It sounds like there are tons of entry points, really. You don't have to sit on a cushion for an hour.
Not at all. Finding what resonates with you and starting small is key.
Okay, let's circle back to the brain science for a moment because it's so compelling. We talked about gray matter increases in prefrontal cortex activity. Can you elaborate a bit more on those specific changes?
Sure. So the gray matter findings, particularly in the hippocampus, are significant because the hippocampus is vital for learning and memory consolidation. Increases there suggest enhanced function.
Right.
And changes in areas like the temporoparietal junction associated with perspective taking and empathy, and parts of the prefrontal cortex linked to regulating emotions and self-awareness, these all point towards the mechanisms behind the benefits people report.
So the brain regions changing directly map onto the skills mindfulness seems to build.
That's what the research suggests, yes. It provides a biological basis for how these practices might work. The increased prefrontal cortex activity, for instance, supports that idea of improved attention control and more thoughtful responding, rather than purely reactive behavior driven by lower brain centers like the amygdala.
And you mentioned stronger connections.
Yes, studies using functional connectivity analysis show strengthened connections within networks supporting attention and also between regions like the prefrontal cortex and other areas, suggesting better communication and integration in the brain for self-regulation.
It's like upgrading the brain's internal communication network.
That's a decent analogy, yeah. And the potential protective effect against age-related decline is also linked to maintaining volume and connectivity in these crucial areas.
Fascinating. And the decrease in the default mode network activity seems just as important. Less mental chatter.
It does seem important, yes. Less getting lost in rumination or worrying about the past or future, and perhaps more capacity to engage with the present sensory experience. It's about shifting the balance of brain activity.
And all this can start happening relatively quickly.
That's what some of the evidence indicates. While long-term practice likely yields deeper changes, studies show that even beginners undertaking, say, an 8-week mindfulness course, can show measurable differences in brain activity and structure.
It really underscores that the brain isn't fixed, that we can actively shape it through mental training.
Absolutely. It's a powerful demonstration of neuroplasticity in action.
Okay, so people are convinced they want to try it. They've picked a simple practice like mindful breathing, but then they sit down and their mind goes everywhere but the breath. That must be a common hurdle, right?
Oh, completely. It's probably the most common experience. The mind is naturally busy. It generates thoughts constantly. That's its job in a way.
So feeling like you failed because your mind wandered is missing the point.
Exactly. The moment you notice your mind has wandered, that's actually a moment of mindfulness. You became aware. The practice isn't about never wandering. It's about the noticing and then the gentle, non-judgmental return.
So the returning is the key repetition, like lifting the weight in the gym.
That's a perfect analogy. Each gentle return strengthens that muscle of attention and awareness. So mind wandering isn't a bug, it's a feature of the practice.
Okay, that reframes it completely. What other challenges do people face? Expecting instant calm, maybe?
Yes, expecting immediate results or thinking mindfulness means always feeling calm or happy. That's a misconception.
Right, it's about being aware of whatever is present, even discomfort.
Precisely. It's about changing your relationship to your experience, not necessarily changing the experience itself, although that often follows. So impatience is a hurdle. Consistency is key. The benefits tend to accumulate over time.
So advice for beginners facing these hurdles.
First, be kind to yourself. Self-compassion is crucial. Don't beat yourself up if your mind feels like a whirlwind. That's normal.
Okay, be kind.
Second, start small. 5 minutes regularly is far better than an hour once a month. Make it achievable so you stick with it.
Consistency over duration.
Yes. And third, remember the goal isn't to stop thoughts or empty your mind. It's simply to practice noticing, observing them without getting carried away. See thoughts as just thoughts, passing events in the mind.
Okay, patience, self-compassion, start small. And remember, the goal is awareness, not a blank mind.
You've got it. Those principles make the practice much more sustainable and less frustrating.
Now let's talk about applying this in specific, tricky situations.
Yeah.
How does mindfulness help when you're right in the middle of a stressful moment?
That's where the practice really pays off. In that moment, mindfulness can help you insert that tiny pause.
The space again?
Yeah. Instead of just reacting on autopilot, maybe snapping or shutting down, you have a moment to recognize, okay, I'm feeling stressed. Maybe take a conscious breath. This creates space to choose a more skillful response.
So choice instead of reaction.
Exactly. What about dealing with persistent negative thoughts, those loops we get stuck in?
Mindfulness helps you see them for what they are. Just thoughts, mental events. Not necessarily facts or truths about reality or yourself, like watching clouds drift by.
Precisely. You acknowledge the thought, there's that worry again. But you don't have to climb aboard and get carried away by its story. You can observe it arise, linger, and eventually pass without over-identifying with it or judging yourself for having it.
That sounds incredibly freeing. What about something like social anxiety?
Mindfulness practices, particularly those focusing on acceptance, can be really helpful. Instead of fighting the anxious feelings, you learn to allow them to be there, noticing the physical sensations without adding layers of judgment or resistance. Paradoxically, accepting the feeling can often lessen its intensity.
Interesting. And anger, we touched on that.
Yes, similar principle. Noticing the physical heat, the tension, the urge to react. Mindfulness allows you to experience the raw energy of anger in your body without immediately acting it out destructively. It creates an opportunity to understand the anger, maybe even respond with compassion both to yourself and potentially the situation.
So feeling it without being consumed by it.
Right. And for general anxiety, the foundational attitudes of mindfulness, like patience, acceptance, non striving, trust, letting go, and self compassion, are all counterweights to anxious tendencies. Focusing on the breath or body sensations provides an anchor when the mind is racing with what ifs.
It grounds you in the present, away from future worries.
Exactly. And you mentioned addiction earlier. How does mindfulness apply there? That seems like a really tough area.
It is, but mindfulness is showing promise as a supportive tool. It helps increase awareness of triggers the emotions, situations, or thoughts that lead to cravings.
Seeing the pattern.
Yes. And it helps people relate differently to cravings themselves. Instead of feeling automatically compelled to act, they can learn to recognize the craving as a wave of sensation and thought that will eventually pass if they don't feed it.
Like recognizing it as an intruder thought, almost.
Kind of, or just as a temporary phenomenon. It creates that critical pause between the urge and the action, empowering the person to make a different choice. It helps them ride out the urge without giving in. So in all these difficult situations, it boils down to awareness, acceptance, and creating that space for a wiser response.
That's a great summary. It's about changing your relationship to the difficult experience.
Okay, as we start to wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway you hope our listener gets about mindfulness?
I think the most crucial message is that it's truly accessible. It's not some mystical state reserved for experts.
Right.
You don't need special gear. You don't need hours of free time. Even tiny moments of mindful awareness woven into your existing day can start to make a real difference. It's fundamentally about training your attention.
Training your brain, like we discussed, for more focus, more calm, more self-awareness, step by step.
Precisely. So maybe the takeaway is an invitation. Just try it. Pick one simple thing, maybe mindful breathing for 1 minute or mindfully drinking your next cup of tea, and just see what you notice.
Be curious about your own experience.
Exactly. You might be genuinely surprised by the impact of simply paying attention on purpose.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Hopefully this conversation has given you some clarity, demystified mindfulness a bit, and shown how you might actually begin to bring it into your life.
And remember, the goal isn't perfection. It's not about achieving some flawless state of Zen all the time. It's really about cultivating that ability to be present with whatever is happening, with a bit more kindness and curiosity.
That really brings up a question for you to think about. What's just one small moment in your day, maybe later today or tomorrow, where you could intentionally bring a little bit more mindful attention?
Could it be walking to your car, brushing your teeth, listening to the sounds around you for 60 seconds?
Just one small moment. We really encourage you to explore some of the ideas we talked about. Maybe try one of the simple exercises. See what happens.
You truly might be surprised by the profound yet simple power of just paying attention.
Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into mindfulness. Until next time, may your moments be filled with clarity and curiosity.